Dramatic video back the blue protesters and alleged Antifa throwdown in Fort Collins.
It's important to note that there were active aggressors on both sides.
What police have to say about the clash being viewed more than 1 million times since yesterday.
Another hot, dry day for the Front Range. I'll let you know when we'll finally get out of the 90s.
These are the kind of conditions that make firefighting scary.
A raging wildfire fueled by hot, dry weather happening on the western slope.
We are waking up to that plume every day, so the smoke is continuous.
We begin tonight with breaking news in Denver. Multiple people shot in Denver's Valverde neighborhood. We're going to have a live picture of the scene coming up in the 1400 block of West Byers Place. Just in the last few minutes, Denver police tweeted that this is not an active shooter incident.
The Denver7 Sloan Dickey just arrived at the scene. Sloan, I know you just got there, but what are you seeing right now?
Well, what we're seeing right now is a lot of police activity behind me. We found out about this shooting about 15 minutes ago when the police department said that multiple parties were shot in this incident. If you can see behind me, there are numerous police cars on the scene. Now, what we don't know right now is how many people were shot and how many people were injured or transferred to the hospital. We have heard radio traffic telling us that numerous vehicles have been sent here to bring life support and to bring people to the hospital. But again, that was multiple shots fired 15 minutes ago, maybe 20 minutes ago. This is a breaking situation. We will definitely bring you more information as it becomes available. What we know right now is multiple people were shot.
Antifa about to get tangled. Oh my.
A powder keg explodes in Fort Collins. We begin tonight with this video all over social media showing dueling protests that turn violent. Good evening and thank you for joining us tonight. I'm JACLYN Allen.
And I'm Gary Brode. We want to warn you, the video you're about to see is disturbing, but take a look here. You can see pro-police protesters attempting to push back who they are calling Antifa out of a Fort Collins neighborhood.
The video on social media then shows the violence escalating, and it's not clear exactly who did what, but there is a major fight with people on both sides throwing punches.
Fort Collins police show up shortly after, as you just saw, and video shows them making arrests.
And tonight, just in the last couple of hours, police in Fort Collins released a statement saying they arrested 3 people and cited another, and they stressed that both sides had active aggressors and people were arrested who identified with both groups.
And tonight, police are asking for help finding all of the people involved. Denver7's Ivan Rodriguez is live in Fort Collins with what the police chief has to say.
Gary, JACLYN, we're right in front of the Fort Collins police station. Now, this is the area where supporters of a Back the Blue group began assembling and later on marching. At one point, they were met with opposition in a residential area, as video shows. Now, pro-police supporters began marching in a way to move that opposition group out of the neighborhood. A fight between both sides broke out, and we see people throwing punches in what looks like an area where there's a ditch. Fort Collins Police Chief Swoboda tells Denver7 they're still investigating the incident.
During that time, several fights broke out. As in most instances where chaos is occurring, it's tough to have the whole story, so we're asking for your help. If you know who was involved or if you have video, please contact us immediately.
Now, in a statement, Chief Swoboda also tells Denver7, quote, "We stand for safety, period. We want all of our community members to feel safe here in Fort Collins, and we reject any form of hate." Live in Fort Collins, Ivan Rodriguez, Denver7.
Well, yet another hot August day across the Front Range.
Yeah, we saw temperatures well into the 90s. It was hot out there. Meteorologist Stacey Donaldson joins us now. And Stacey, we broke a record today?
We actually tied a record, 98 degrees here for the Front Range here in Denver, and upper 90s from Fort Collins to Greeley, even 101 for Burlington. So just about everywhere you went across eastern Colorado, it's been hot. 80s, 70s, and 80s up in the higher elevations and 90s out toward Grand Junction. But yes, 98 degrees tied our previous record set back in 2012. Our normal afternoon high this time of year is 89 degrees. So we are well above that for today. But we do also have an air quality warning in effect for western Colorado through tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. And we've had a few scattered thunderstorms moving through eastern Colorado. Not much happening here in Denver. We're expecting those dry conditions to remain in through tonight. For the Eastern Plains, though, the storms have basically moved out of the state, and so we're looking pretty good with severe thunderstorm warnings outside Colorado at this point. But we are going to talk about when we'll finally get out of the 90s in just a few minutes.
All right, thanks, Stacy. Hot and dry conditions are making it tough for firefighters trying to contain this fire, the Pine Gulch fire near Grand Junction. The fire has now grown to more than 23,000 acres.
And all of that smoke from the fire is moving east, making its way to the Front Range. Denver7 SLOAN DICKEY reports on the effort to get this fire under control.
You can barely see the mountains.
Wildfire smoke now hovering over Denver.
I started noticing it yesterday. There was a smell in the air, and then this morning it was really prevalent.
The thick smoke blocking the view of the Front Range comes from the Pine Gulch fire in Garfield County.
A lot of Colorado is seeing the smoke from this fire.
Overnight, that fire grew to more than 23,000 acres.
It is a highly visible fire. The plume is large every day. And unfortunately, with overnight temperatures and conditions, we're getting very little recovery.
Dry and hot conditions have made battling the flames dangerous and difficult.
It is pretty rare when a team comes into a fire that we not only see no containment increase for the first couple of days, but we actually saw it drop because the fire grew so exponentially.
Firefighters having more trouble containing the blaze. Right now, it's only 7% contained. The flames rising so high that planes are unable to drop water.
The flames are so hot and the flame lengths are so high that the fire retardant and the water drops aren't even reaching the ground.
Officials are optimistic that conditions could change soon.
We are all hoping that the winds start to die down, and there is some prediction of a little bit of relief in the weather this next coming week.
But they're telling residents near the fire to prepare to evacuate as the blaze continues to spread.
We likely will see growth on this fire.
SLOAN DICKEY reporting right there. A man is dead after being hit by a car in Aurora late last night. Police say it happened around 10 on East Arapahoe Road between Chambers and Jordan. They say the man was walking in part of the road without streetlights. The driver remained on scene and is cooperating. No charges are being filed right now. Denver police are looking for a suspect in a murder case where a man was shot to death. It happened just east of downtown near 24th and Downing overnight. Officers have no information about the suspect.
Coronavirus cases are on the rise in the U.S., with millions of Americans now infected.
And relief is coming to Americans who have been struggling for months during the pandemic. Deidre Bolton reports on the executive orders signed by the president and why Democrats are hitting back.
The United States, now with 5 million confirmed cases and more than 162,000 deaths from coronavirus. The pandemic throwing the economy into crisis. Millions of unemployed Americans have been relying on the $600 a week supplemental federal unemployment payment, a benefit that expired on July 31st. Talks on Capitol Hill to extend those payments collapsed on Friday.
Therefore, I'm taking executive action. We've had it.
On Saturday, President Trump bypassing Congress, signing 4 executive actions.
Through these 4 actions, my administration will provide immediate and vital relief to Americans struggling in this difficult time.
The president seeking to restore unemployment benefits, but slashing the weekly checks to $400, requesting that states share the cost. Also, minimizing evictions, suspending interest on federal student loans, and enacting payroll tax cuts. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi not mincing words.
In fact, what the president did is, I agree with the Republican senator said, it was unconstitutional slop. While it has the illusion of saying we're going to have a moratorium on evictions, it says, I'm going to ask you the folks in charge to study if that's feasible. While he says he's going to do the payroll tax, what he's doing is undermining Social Security and Medicare.
Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin says that's not the case.
That's just factually inaccurate. There'd be no reduction to those benefits, and the president's made that very clear.
Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer calling the executive orders unworkable.
Most states will take months to implement it because it's brand new. It's sort of put together with spit and paste.
But the president's top economic advisor disagrees.
The states are the ones that process the federal benefits before. So I don't see any reason why it'd be all that difficult.
There's also the question of whether states can afford to chip in 25% of that $400 benefit.
The answer is I don't know yet, but I think what really needs to happen is Congress needs to get back in and negotiate.
So far, no word yet on whether Trump administration officials and Democratic leadership will resume negotiations. Deirdre Bolton, ABC News, New York.
All right, keeping kids safe and out of trouble. Denver7's Sean Toll shows us how a basketball camp is letting kids have some fun while teaching them about some important lessons about life.
Dozens of kids took over the Lowry Sports Complex basketball courts in Denver the past few days. Yes, to play ball, but also to get a little more.
Life skills, which is dear to my heart, is what I get out of it. I give back to the other kids. And then the basketball is my grandson gets out of.
It just means so much that we can bring kids out here, play basketball, they can have a good time, it's completely free, and they're not out getting in the gun violence.
Denver police say homicides involving guns are up more than 42% this year compared to last, and more than 100 people have been shot.
In the last month or so, there's been a lot of killings in the Mount Bello community of young people, a lot of killings in our community. We said we want to do something that's positive.
Positive for kids like Simmons' grandson, 13-year-old Timothy Austin, who wants to follow in his grandfather's footsteps to keep pushing for positivity.
So I can make sure that the kids are still being protected, still having fun, and not out in the streets.
We understand that Black Lives Matter, and this is part of it. This is a legacy that we're leaving for our kids, and we're leading by example.
Thanks to help from community organizations, including the Broncos, who supplied Sunday lunch, they want to bring more positive energy. Just don't ask who will win a game of one-on-one.
Everybody, yes, I am. He can't beat me.
Sean Toll, Denver7.
Colorado Avalanche fans are getting a chance to show off their team spirit. The team hosted a playoff POM-POM drive-thru today where fans could get free pom-poms, wave to Bernie, and get pumped up to cheer the Avs during the Stanley Cup playoffs. The Avs are the second seed in the Western Conference and will face the Arizona Coyotes in the first round. But we don't know when the Avs will play. The NHL hasn't released the playoff schedule just yet.